All right, guys, what's up? We're live. Another generals meeting, just the guys getting together to chop it up. Forgive the hoodie. I'm getting ready to go meet up with my trainer after this, so I've got my gym gear on underneath. How you guys all doing today?
Doing well.
Excited.
Good morning, guys.
What is crack-a-lacking in the world today? What's a hot topic? I heard yesterday after I did that podcast with Adam Sosnick that Andrew and Tristan got another 30 days to the end of February, and they still haven't charged them with anything. Do you have any updates from within Romania, Dragos?
There's something happening in the background in the sense that usually when they extend the arrest, they probably have more evidence or they're in the process of creating it.
Creating it. Okay, that's a key word.
Yeah. A lot of the people or some of the people that were presented as victims have come out to support Andrew.
Mhm.
They have explained how their testimony was not taken into account, like the prosecutor just threw the paper away when it wasn't incriminating against Tate.
It seems like there's some Western media behind this, because I was watching a translated Romanian broadcast, and
Yeah,
the gal was on clearly a Romanian air TV show, but the ticker banner on the bottom was CNN,
yeah.
right? And the translation wasn't favorable, but it's just
It's
it's ongoing,
like
man.
the media is so biased. The mainstream media is so biased against him, and
Mhm.
even some of the local TV stations that were less political have gotten on the bandwagon, and they're basically recycling the same news, like the one where they said that he was trying to get underage girls to work for him.
Mhm.
The reality is that he just Tristan sent some chicks the message that they're beautiful. This is what got presented as trying to get them to work for them, right?
Uh-huh.
So they're taking the same news, old news, right? This was on the news years ago, and they're recycling it, and every single day they are finding a different thing to say negatively about them. And it's so painfully obvious. Like, I've talked to my dad, and I'm like, we're sitting drinking a beer, and I'm asking him one evening, like, what do you think about this? And he's
Mhm.
like, I don't know who this guy pissed off, but it's so obvious they're against him. Like, it's
Right.
you can see it from the fucking airplane.
Yeah. So apparently the schools are trying to like re-educate kids now, especially teenage boys, to like stop them from adopting his ideas, stuff that he's broadcasted. So I got this clip over here I think we should play and sort of touch on, because I don't know who this chick is, but basically, she's saying that teenage boys are generally idiots and teenage girls are really something to behold and brilliant. So let me just hit play here. Let me know if you guys can't hear it.
Because you wrote a piece on Spike this week about Andrew Tate and the reaction to Andrew Tate. And it got me thinking, because I was speaking to a...
Oh, come on. Freaking spinning wheel of death. Let's go, baby.
It's a StreamYard issue, isn't it?
I think it's a StreamYard issue. It usually happens only on StreamYard. I don't know what that is. Here, let me just hit refresh and see if it'll reload, and we'll try it one more time.
So teenage boys are going to listen to this chick. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, right.
Andrew Tate. And it got me thinking, because I was speaking to a teacher friend of mine who said that at his school, there was a decree that came down from the headmaster saying that the name must not be mentioned among the children because it will radicalize them into misogyny. Yeah. Is that the right way to deal with this? Apparently, according to your article, this is happening quite a lot in schools.
Yeah, well, there was this big article in the Times Education Supplement, which was all about how to instruct teachers how to deal with Andrew Tate and the influence of Andrew Tate. And one of the main things was calling for official CPD training for all schools to be able to deal with Andrew Tate. So number one, truth that was forever thus is that 13-year-old boys, which is sort of the main kind of age category that finds him interesting, are generally idiots. I mean, they're like in the nicest way possible.
Yeah,
They're very immature. They, pick up on stuff. They get obsessed. There's a reason why so many of them are obsessed with gaming and things like that. They get obsessed with things.
You're sort of arguing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that a victim-centered feminism, or a feminism that says, yes, women are weaker and need more protection, that's the wrong way to go about this.
Yeah, it's because, well, number one, it's just not true. There is nothing more terrifying and brilliant than a teenage girl. I mean, really, they're something to behold. And obviously...
And they wonder why boys like Tate, right? Teenage boys are idiots.
She's never been a teenager, or did she just skip that decade?
I don't know.
Teenagers in general, yeah, most of them are idiots, but I don't think that's the right thing to call them. They're just kind of
accused of
they
various
don't commit themselves yet.
Yeah.
Things which will...
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Let me just hit refresh one more time. Hopefully we can get through to the end.
To Andrew Tate, and it got me
EPD training. All you need is a teacher with a confidence sense of who he really might be, and so I think that he should be talked about in schools. But you don't need CPD training. All you need is a teacher with the confidence to say, what about this loser interests you, and what about him do you think is going to make you successful, and just have a conversation in reality, rather than write 7 articles about how terrifying he is and, it's also not a kind of coincidence, I think, that this whole panic is happening at the same time that, for example, lots of politicians are going absolutely mental about the online safety bill at the moment. And there's a snowballing effect of young people are being brainwashed by people online. Really, all we have to do is pull the plug and give them a bit of a kick intellectually and maybe physically and say, get interested in something real.
Because you wrote a piece on...
Wow. Imagine you're a teacher in the United Kingdom. I don't know what they would pay them. Probably 35, 45,000 pound a year. I don't know. Where's 50? Maybe he'll pop in soon and we can ask him. But imagine standing there and going, why are you listening to this loser?
From an overweight,
it's so interesting how
dumpy, low-income teacher. Because I realized most of my teachers were losers. My bad. Go ahead, Mom.
No, she's sitting here saying like, "Oh, let's have a real conversation. Let's have an honest conversation." She prefaces it by "this loser." It's like, what the fuck is that? It's like, hey, why are you listening to this idiot? Oh, that's not. I mean, it's just everything is just so ass backwards with this entire thing. I mean, when you want to talk about what's going on over here with global elites flying to a sex island and not a single one of them ever seeing the inside of a jail cell or a courtroom. When you want to talk about the brainwashing of young children, when we're seeing all of these rainbow warriors, meanwhile, you have 2 men that were sex trafficking 2 boys aged, I think, under 11 years old. Not only for their own personal use, yes, not only for their own personal use, so to speak, but also pimping them out to other neighbors. I mean, and this is what we choose to demonize, and this is what we're focused on. I mean, the entire world is just backwards, and I want it to burn.
Here we go. We've got gay couple charged with molesting and pimping out their adopted sons. Like,
this is actually an older article. Like I knew about this like a month or 2 ago. I'm surprised it's now. And that's kind of the issue, right? Like it's just now hitting the airwaves. It's just now circulating. It's something that they tried to bury, and that some independent journalist or somebody tried and said, "Hey, whoa, we're gonna go ahead and dig this up, and it needs to make the rounds." But again, anything going against the status quo, anything against what the people in their ivory towers want you to think and wear and eat and sleep and believe is they're going to try to bury it. Thank God for Elon Musk's Twitter, man.
Yeah, if it wasn't, honestly, dude, like if it wasn't for Twitter, the way the algorithms work and the way that you can now more openly talk about these sorts of things, they would be suppressed a lot more, like way more than what they are still.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually forcing YouTube and Meta and any other platform to loosen up their algorithms so they can compete. Because before they were all in bed together. And then Musk came along and said, you know what? You're all fired. Fuck you guys. And let's get these files out. Oh, here's some more information they've suppressed. Look at all this. I think it's great. I love it.
And a lot of people are coming to Twitter now. Like, it's unbelievable. People that usually used Instagram for their like daily scrolling, a lot of new people that are coming to Twitter. Like
You have to be very careful with Instagram. There's a lot of stuff you can't post on there.
Yeah.
You just have to post nonsense stuff like, oh, here's my steak, here's my whiskey, here, oh, I'm getting on an airplane, oh, beach, sunset. I mean, really, that's what my Instagram is. It's pretty boring these days because you can't get controversial at all.
No.
They'll start
one of my stories on Instagram got shadow banned. Like, I was looking at the number of the views, and 4 hours later, it was 34 views. So I just deleted it and posted like a picture of an engine saying that I want to test the shadow ban. And it instantly went to 150 views.
Yeah.
And it's like unbelievable. It's so obvious.
It's a known reality. And I really hope that the Twitter platform grows beyond just microblogging, which is really what it was designed to do. Like, you can now host video on it up to 10 minutes if you pay for the premium account, right? So that's great. Like, I'll probably start to post like actual raw video on Twitter through my feed beyond just YouTube. I mean, we'll see how the algorithm works and how it goes, but there's finally a place where you can have some discourse, right? What else has been going on with you guys this week? What have y'all been up to?
Not too much, just a lot of the same. The New Year's kicking in, so things are starting to ramp up. Got the new goal sets, got that all going. And usually for me, between January and April, there's really not much going on in terms of fun or social life. It's kind of like just head down, grind. And then when April comes around, usually by about that time, I can achieve my new set of goals for the year, and then it's fun for the summertime. I don't know if you guys' year looks like that, but it's just coming out of the holidays and getting back into the swing of things, really. But the swing of things is kicking off pretty fast.
Yeah, I've been doubling down with this trainer of mine, man. The dude's fucking awesome. Like, I've been strength training since I was probably 13, 14, 15, since my dad handed me that Charles Atlas guide to like dynamic tensions and like doing push-ups to different kind of workouts that stress your body in like a natural sort of way. I've never hired a trainer, and the guy that I got, he's just a retired bodybuilder that used to judge bodybuilding contests. He's also the guy that manages my endocrine stuff. Really well versed, and he's shown me so much. Like, I'm telling you guys, if you're having a hard time losing weight, or if you have problem areas that you want to fix, hire a good personal trainer. It's definitely worth the money. And
you don't have to use him forever. I did that years ago in California during COVID. Hired ex-bodybuilder. Exactly. He built a gym out of his garage, like old school gym. Bought up. All the gyms were closing and selling their shit for super cheap at first, and then it was overpriced, if you remember back in 2020. But we'd spend all day in his garage just lifting like the old school guys did back in the 70s and 80s. And I got the most jacked I've ever did in my life. And it really wasn't too – he knew how the body works, so it didn't put a lot of stress on my body, like no joint pain, no whatever. We didn't even go super heavy. We really just exhausted the living shit out of the muscle. And then that form of training, the cadence and the low rest times and the high time under tension, the style in which he trained me, that carries over even into the way I train today. And Rich, like you, I've been training forever, but they take you to that next level when you get someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, once you learn the basics, you don't need to keep using them forever. It's like, okay, take what you need and leave.
Yeah, there's one more dimension to this aspect. Like, I've rarely trained without a personal trainer, because after you're exhausted, you're basically on remote control. Like, you can't see anything except what's in front of you after you've done like 4 or 5 heavy sets. The only thing keeping you working is the personal trainer, who's yelling at you, do one more set here, go do this, go do that. I'm like, it's so much easier to have somebody else do the thinking for you while you're in the middle of the like concentrating on your muscles and believing that you're growing.
All of the conventional movements that you're generally going to do in even like an LA Fitness gym with a lot of equipment, you're probably not going to do with a personal trainer. Like, there's probably 85% of the movements that I'm doing now I've never done before.
Yep.
Fantastic.
I work with a guy remote, actually. So, I mean, I've been working with a coach for a little bit over almost a year now, and we're transitioning more away from a sort of like bodybuilding. No, sorry, but more of away from like a powerlifting sort of type of workouts, doing a lot more hypertrophy and a lot more bodybuilding type stuff, which It is interesting. Like I'm a big compound guy, so like squat, bench, deadlift. Like I haven't touched any of those lifts in like 2 straight weeks, which is like really foreign for me. But you know, I've been looking at. Yeah, I agree. Like whatever makes you get the work done, man. You know, for me, like I don't like to be with anybody else in the gym. I like to put headphones in. I don't like to have training partners. I don't like to even have like I wouldn't even hire, I think, an in-person trainer at this point because I need to get in and get out. But and for me, it's also when I'm having those moments where it's like, you know what, I could just write in here. Yeah, I could just take this last set off, or I could just not skip this last exercise, and he'd be none the wiser. And then that's a mental exercise within itself to push through and like, you know, talk down your own bullshit and actually get through it. So that's something that's preferable to me. Like that's just another test of your mental state.
You ever had any injury issues with your heavy lifts, Muff?
I had some elbow pain and some like tendonitis, but a lot of that is due to it's not just lifting heavy for a long time. It's just you get into bad habit, and that's one of the things. Like if you do have a remote coach like I do, and you get out of the habit of like recording your sets, which I have often. Little bad habits start to creep in, and then if you do those bad habits for long enough, you know, at a lower weight, they might not really be a big a deal, but as you start to get up there, they can really affect you. So something as simple as, you know, your hand placement or the bar placement on your squat. If it's too low on your back, or there's a bunch of feedback, I think it's coming from Drago.
Drago, did you turn into a robot over there?
Yeah, I'm just gonna mute him. There's some feedback coming.
If there's I see the question in the private chat. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll answer that in a second. But yeah, something as simple as that. So like hands too wide, you know, so there's a lot of stress on your wrists, or the bar too low on your back. So when you go down in the hole, there's a lot of extra stress and torque on your elbows. So like just little things you don't think about, but you wake up one morning or you go to grab a plate, and it's like even doing this motion, you're like, you feel that in your elbow. So, you know, and you try to, that's the worst thing to do is like getting injured. Cause like you can't, if you get hurt, you cannot work through it. You just, and for somebody like me with
gotta work around
lifting,
it if anything.
Yeah, with lifting being just such a part of my routine, like I have a significant difference in my mood and mental state on days where I train versus days that I don't. Like I've gone to like a 6-day split. I'd rather have a 6-day split and do, you know, less work every day than have a 3-day split and do more work on 3 days, just because it's so much easier for me to get into that routine and do what I'm doing. As far as there's a question in the private chat about puking. Yeah. I've definitely gotten, I eat before I work out. So I used to train fasted, and it just wasn't working for me, especially if I was going for heavy lifts. So, you know, I used to put down probably 1,500 or so calories in a pre-workout meal, which is a lot.
Damn.
Now that's down to about 500, and that's about like 50 grams of carbs, 50 grams of protein, a little bit of fat here, but just enough so I'm not just running on E. But
it's a Kickstarter. I started doing that too, because I'm a faster, but yeah, I need a little something before.
And just like it's like a whey shake, and it's like a banana. It's something simple and easy. Maybe like a cup of yogurt. Like it's nothing crazy, nothing heavy. But I used to be putting down like oatmeal and bagels and shit. And like I would put down like 200 grams of carbs in a breakfast. And now that's my whole day allotment. But the puking thing, I've definitely been close. Like there's been times where I've gone to the can right after and started having sort of those dry heaves, and it didn't come through. But a lot of times when I'm feeling like I'm getting ready to come up is because I'm drinking too much water or liquid in between like a heavy deadlift set. And then what you do
and it like
is
pushes it out
stomach of you. Compresses, and then it just comes up like a volcano. So you gotta be careful with that.
Did you get super gassy with the 1,500 calorie pre-workout? Like protein farts are a real thing. Sorry guys, listening if you're eating breakfast.
Mostly carbs. Like, as far as protein goes, my protein intake hasn't changed much. It's like I've upped it by 50, but my pre-workout meal was almost like it was like 70, 80. It was like 60 or 70% carbohydrates. It was like bagels and like oatmeals and shit like that.
Yeah, do you guys want to hear something crazy? You guys know who Andrew Huberman is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hubes.
So I came across a video. I sent it over to my trainer. We're going to start using it when I move from the weight class that I'm doing now to more heavier growth sort of techniques. but apparently cold water increases strength and endurance by 300%. So if you just search on YouTube, cold water will increase your strength and endurance by 300%, plus Andrew Huberman, it should come up. The long and short of it, though, is they did this study, and essentially they use a cold bar, and people were doing chin-ups, and they use these two different, control groups. And
I know
when
what this is.
between the sets, because apparently the palms of your hands, your face, and the bottoms of your feet are the best places for you to heat and cool down your body, right? So if you want to cool yourself down, yeah, well, that's where all the capillaries sort of are, and they're just more efficient in that areas apparently. So in the study, what they did was they froze basically a cold bar, like a metal bar, an iron bar, or something like that, and between the chin-up sets, they would just hold the bar, while they were resting, and then that would draw the cool into their core, sort of thing. And apparently, the strength of the people that they were testing it on went up 300% just by holding a cold bar between sets. Go and look it up. It's really interesting. But he's going to
when you're cold too, your muscles also contract. So I always look at it. It's like a lever and pulley type system. So when your muscles contract, I know a lot of guys they'll say like, oh, they're really into stretching or warming up before lifting. I found that if I'm stretched and I'm loose, or like if I do yoga and then I lift, I'm much more injury prone rather than if you're tense. But you have to have strict form for that too.
There's more to the story, and Andrew Huberman doesn't like the material that you have seen is not the full story. Mm-hmm. Some guys went and did some testing regarding tank drivers and tank operators. They would overheat in the tank, and their performance would go down. So what they did is that they created a glove that creates a vacuum, and inside has hollow bar that water passes through. So what they do is that you put your hand in the glove, and it cools down the hand and the bar, and it extracts heat from your body. But there's also the component of vacuum, because if there's no vacuum, the capillaries will constrict because of the cold, and it needs to not be lower than 10 or 9 degrees Celsius, because it produces vasoconstriction, and you no longer you go numb, right?
That's interesting.
And they did the testing on athletes, and for example, for chin-ups, they can do 300% more chin-ups, but not like with more weights. So it increases your capacity to do more volume, but not necessarily more weights. Like for example, if you do leg press with 100 kilos, you won't be able to do 300 kilos. You'll just be able to do 3 times more the max set that you do with 100 kilos.
I wonder what effect that has on your results.
Sorry?
Well, more volume is always better than less. Well, not always, but I mean, more volume is still a good thing.
I
think the thing that I have. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I've noticed the same thing happens when you're sick. Like not when you're super sick, but like when something's coming on or you're coming out of being sick.
That's why they always feel your forehead if you have a fever, because it radiates a lot of heat, right?
Yeah. There's these protein that gets destroyed when you're overheating, and it's actually counter intuitive for you to be working out while overheated, right? So like if there would be an exterior way of cooling yourself while you are working out, your results would be much better, right?
Do any of you guys use a cold plunge on a regular basis?
No, I don't. The last time I did it was a hero's journey.
No,
if there's a cold river, and I'll jump into it, but yeah, like I mean,
is a cold shower like is a cold shower?
No, it's not the same, because you want to kind of like have the cold water consistently on your body rather than sort of like ambient air plus cold water.
Well, in Mexico, half of your showers are cold showers.
Well, Mexico, it's warm, so it wouldn't bother me, man.
Yeah, the water's not super cold unless it's chilly at night. But the pilot light will get blown out with a breeze, and then you turn on the shower, you're like, well, guess it's a cold shower.
Yeah, if I ever live down in a warmer climate on a more permanent basis, I'm definitely going to have an outdoor cold shower. Just cold water running to an outdoor shower, deal with it just outside, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it. Like, I've got a spot out on. I've got a deck that I don't even use, and there's no furniture on it. So even if I just put like a tub out there, but I don't know what the maintenance would be or the upkeep or what I would need to do temperature wise to even make it worth my while. Is that just a ton of time for a marginal benefit? I mean, like
I've seen guys do it in their groups.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do it every day, I think that's. I think the thing that I dig Huberman, man. Like I like the fact that the guy's gotten popular. I mean, ever since he came on Rogan and started talking about like Tonga Ali and whatever the other I can't remember the other compound as far as raising
Fedoja.
Yeah. But you know, I think sometimes I hear guys talk about stuff like this a lot, and it can breed excuses for a lot of guys. What was the old thing? Like, oh, I don't want to overtrain. It's like, don't worry, dude. You're not working hard enough to overtrain. Like, a lot of guys have no idea what it truly means or feels like to actually train hard or go to failure. Or you get these guys that say, oh, well, I didn't get my 9 hours of sleep, like Huberman says, or I didn't get my 15 minutes of early sun, so I guess it's a wash and I should just pick it back up tomorrow. It's like, oh, I didn't you know, take my XYZ pre-workout supplement. It's like, sometimes it's like, dude, just grab your fucking balls and like just go throw some iron around. Like,
just do it consistently.
Going and doing something is always going to be better than doing nothing. Like, this whole obsession we have nowadays sort of with optimization, I think is, for some guys, it's really good. Guys that are art, exactly. I think this obsession with optimization has actually bred a lot of people that are like, well, like if it's not the perfect scenario and it doesn't fit perfectly in the, I'm just gonna, you know, I'll pick it back up tomorrow. And then how many missed sessions?
That's an interesting point, because like everybody's got these optimization schedules to whatever it is that they obsess about. Like, you know, for guys that train, it's, you know, I got to have my protein at this level, this at this level. I got to fast on these days, my sleep. But it's like they'll go right down this like absurdly geeky rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And guys do it in the Mano Swamp too. Yeah. And then guys do it in the Mano Swamp too. It's like, oh, well, if you don't say this or if she responds with that, then you got to this and that. It's like,
it's weird rules.
I mean, yeah. Like,
schemas they follow.
Like, are you a professional competitive power lifter?
Yeah,
it's probably not going to make that big of a difference in your life. Like, you know, if we're being honest, okay.
But that's
if
not
you're
sexy,
just like a bro science guy.
You're a junior level software developer. You're going to be okay. You're not going to.
That's not sexy. It doesn't sell programs. It doesn't sell books. It doesn't sell, you know, this and that.
I want to be mean for a second.
Okay, go.
I won't give out a name. Somebody that did a fucking light bulb and then started selling courses on how to.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Oh, that's funny. I remember years ago I was going.
How did you think that wasn't going to get out? Like, in what world were people not going to find out about that?
Rich was talking about the rabbit hole thing. There were years ago. I think I went home for Christmas and I was making excuses like, I don't want to go to the gym. You know, it's cold and it's icy. And my little sister of all people, she's like, Jaron, have you ever gone to the gym and not felt better afterwards than before you went? I'm just like, okay, not damn once. It, grab this. All right, we got to go. I can't contest that.
And that's the hardest thing, man. Like, dude, even so, I've started to play around with 2 days and 3 days. Like, I've got some buddies that were doing sort of a. I wouldn't call it like a 75 hard challenge, but you know, we have a target date. We all set like a target date and a target weight of like March 15th, X amount of pounds. We're getting to this weight, and it's like, talk to my coach, and he's like, yeah, cool. We're going to cut your calories. We're going to up your protein. We're going to cut your carbs. You're going to be doing cardio 4 to 6 times. And you're going to be lifting in the mornings, and you're going to be doing cardio. And then I've even started finally getting back into like Muay Thai and MMA and kickboxing and stuff, because I haven't picked my gloves up in a long time. And, you know, so sitting on the couch yesterday, like 6 p.m., just in the dark, like, dude, my fucking shoes felt like cinder blocks, just getting up and going and hitting the incline treadmill. And it's like, as soon as I was on it, I was like, this is easy. It's like, that's the hardest part. If you can just get past that moment of not getting up, not going to, it's always the hardest part. Once you're there, like, you're good. But it's just, for whatever reason, that hump between on the couch to on the treadmill or in the gym is the hardest part.
I've learned to look forward to the commute to and from the gym. So years ago, and I've talked about this in the group, when I was in California, I started riding a bike in California. Here it's close enough where I walk. So there's one There's one that's really nice in like a fancy plaza if I'm looking good, or like when buddies come down from the group, we'll go there and, to be seen. And there's another one that's a hole in the wall in the bottom of like a corporate office building. No one's there. So I go during like midday. And then there's a couple guys there. They're my buddies because we're always there at the same time. But I look forward to, because most days, like, especially, dude, I've been in the gym for 20 years. You don't want to go to the gym every day. Like, it gets kind of boring after a while. But I look forward to walking to the gym, going out and seeing my neighbors and waving to the same people and breathing the fresh air if it rained the night before and listening to the birds chirp. I enjoy the process of getting to the gym. And then once you're there, it's like, well, I might as well lift. Might as well do the routine. And then going home again, you always feel better than when you got there before. And then that kind of, for me, my day doesn't really start when I lift. Like, I feel really.
What is that hormone that is released when you lift weights?
Dopamine.
Hang on,
they
call endorphins.
Yeah.
I've got a question. Yeah. And 2 remarks. The question is, have you guys ever gotten side stitches from the effort at the gym?
What do you mean,
like
side stitches?
Side stitches, yeah.
Yeah, the pain
I
under
used to
your
always get
rib
those
cage.
from running. I used to always get those from running, but never.
It's heavy
like,
impact on the
Are you
joint
talking about in
running.
your side, like here?
Yeah,
No, I
under
never
the
got
rib
that.
cage.
I would always
No.
get those running, but never. And I never.
The
I
same
always
thing
thought
that
that
you
was
get from
lack of
running.
oxygen in the diaphragm. But yeah, I don't really run anymore because I'm all about longevity and aging gracefully. So running is one of the worst things you can do. It's high impact on your joints. You can
Kills your
swim,
knees,
you can
dude.
bike. Yeah, do all that. You can still get your cardio in without putting impact on your joints.
Funny guys like Goggins talks about
Yeah.
how he went to the doctor and he was 40 years old and they're like, your knees are knees of a 90-year-old. Like, you just literally have no cartilage left. It's a miracle you can still walk.
Well, I was a catcher in baseball through college. My knees are shit. And I didn't realize that when I went to the doctor, one of the guys in the group, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I've never had a knee injury. He's like, bro, you've been up, down since you were 5 years old until you were 23. Like your knees were fucked. I'm like, oh yeah,
if you're gonna
like
run,
it's the
and
repetition.
The 2 remarks that I wanted to say about the gym is that, like, for me, motivation is much easier to get if I go to the gym first thing in the morning, and if I don't get on my phone before going to the gym and at the gym. Like, if I check into my phone after I've done that, it would be a much more enjoyable drive or walk to the gym. And the second thing I wanted to say is that depending on the type of gym you go to, if it's not a sweaty balls type of gym, you can also pick up some chicks at the gym.
Yeah, there's different types of
yeah,
gyms.
that's an interesting topic for sure.
Did you guys hear about that technique that Goggins used to sort of motivate himself? He would take the
5, 4,
comments
3,
from
2, 1,
haters.
or-
No. He would take comments from haters, read them out in his own voice, and then listen to them while he was training.
Right, dude. That's fucking nuts.
I remember when I was
That might be
losing
something to give a try.
When I was losing, because I lost like 100 pounds when I was 17. I'd get up early and
Could you
jog.
imagine listening to your haters while you're training?
No, you should take
works.
snippets
It
and
works.
text
I
messages.
don't think I'd be able to do it. I'd probably be laughing my
messages.
ass off the whole time.
You should take breakup text messages from old ex-girlfriends and read
Yeah,
those,
that too,
and then
right?
fucking put recording. Like,
When I first started losing my
That'd be
100
brutal,
pounds at
dude.
17, I'd do like 3 miles every morning around my neighborhood, and then at lunchtime, I'd skip lunch, I'd jog the track, or when you're that fat, you're kind of walking the track, and then after school, I'd be on the track too. So I was putting in 9 or 10 miles a day. It was low impact stuff, I was pretty heavy, so you're not that fast. But people like at the lunch hour at my high school, because we had off campus lunch, people would like drive by and laugh or whatever. But in my head, I already knew these guys were fucking losers, and I knew that I was going to just blow them out of the water in life. And it's so satisfying for me when I go home. I don't go to bars or anything, but you'll run into these guys like, oh, dude, we're always cool. I was like, no, dude, you're a dick. Like, you're a piece of shit. And now that I'm in my mid-30s, you can tell, like, all right, I made the right decision. But knowing that, it actually motivated me when the guy's like, oh, look at that fatty on the track. I'd be like, dude, I'm better than you. Like, I just am. I don't look like it, but I am. And now it's abundantly clear.
dude, the phone thing for me is such an interesting thing because all my training is on an app, like on my phone. I mean, dude, if you can help it, get a pad and paper that way. Go old school. Like, do not get on your phone. I mean,
We recommended that in the group the other day.
Notebook.
It's like get a notebook and a fucking pen and paper or whatever. I mean, look, like
One of these
if you're
is
gonna
great.
be
You just have like little thing that ties it up.
You can see where you can see where you screwed up too. Like I failed on this rep, or I went backwards
write
week
shit
over
down.
week. Yeah.
But just straight from a distraction point of view, like I don't do this because like my stuff is on my phone, and that's how we use an app. It's called, I can't remember the name of it, but
Is it Body Space?
no, it's like
There's a bunch of them.
I'll
now
send
out
it to
there.
you after. It's one that he uses and he sent to me. But the point is, like, if I find myself getting on my phone, like I'm always on my phone in between sets, but it's like I usually am resting for anywhere from like 3 to 5 minutes just because of the types of lift. Not as much anymore. Now it's down to like 2 to like 1 to 3 because of the type of lifting that I'm doing. But like, dude, I've there have definitely been times where I'll check my email and then something has popped up, and now that's the only thing on my mind for the next hour. Like, oh, I got to get to this and I got to get to that, and I'll be like, all right, I'll just cut this session short. So it can be a huge hindrance. I mean, it's like when you're there, like be there, like be present, like be lifting.
I do that too. I find out I rush my workouts if there's like work text coming in.
So as far as those
go.
chemicals, guys, they're called endorphins, and apparently they trigger the same positive feeling you get in your body. It's apparently very similar to morphine. I don't know if you've ever had morphine, but I was in a hospital once to get my appendix out, and they had to give me morphine kind of in the waiting area, before we started, because the pain was so high. And it's like, now that I think about it, the feeling you get with morphine in your body, it's pretty extreme, with morphine, but when you have a good workout, it's a very similar feeling. It's a very similar
amazing.
feeling, actually.
You feel like a god
you
when you're
feel
walking
awesome.
home. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was more productive is right after. I was always more productive right after the gym. That's why I did it first thing. You just keep that momentum going.
Hey, Moff, I had a question for you. Yeah, you mentioned that you're changing your weightlifting style, because I know between you and I, like we're fairly similar builds, but you were more powerlifting. I did a lot of that when I was younger, and then as I got older, I literally trained like a Instagram female fitness model, just high reps, high time under tension, very low rest time. It's more like HIIT style training. I'm wondering, as your goals are shifting, because I think you mentioned you're trying to go more on the leaner side, like longevity side. Are you going more towards that way? And if so, I've noticed with me that, because I used to think the same thing. Oh my God, I'm not doing 500-pound deadlifts anymore. I'm going to get smaller. I'm going to lose my gains, bro. I realized that once you have the base, you kind of have it. Have you noticed that, or Rich? Have you noticed that too? Like you did a decade of work.
Old
in the
muscle
gym
is good muscle. Yeah.
It just sticks to your frame. You don't really got to worry about losing it.
That's what I'm trying to figure out where I'm at right now. So like the last time that I dieted down to where I'm planning on being, which is I'm trying to get down to about 200. I think I'd really like to be walking around like a $185 or 190. But last time I got
185, you'll be jacked, because you and I think we're about the same height and build. Yeah, 185.
Last time I was down to like 195, I was not really pleased with my body comp. I still thought that I had not as much muscle as I originally thought. And so I spent a lot of time trying to build a base. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I don't really know what I would look like right now at 195 or 200. That's kind of what we're doing. We're sort of kind of getting down there, and then we're going to reassess. It's like, do we need to drop 10 more? Or now we're going to go into like a lean bulking phase for 8 to 12 weeks. So this is just about getting down to a decent weight where we can reassess like what my body comp really looks like. But yeah, I mean, right now it's similar. It's bodybuilding stuff. Like I haven't got under a squat bar in 2 weeks. It's been a lot of dumbbell work, a lot of, isometric stuff, a lot of single leg and single arm type of things. So, and nothing under probably 8. Everything has been over 8 reps at least. Like 12 to 15 is the most common scheme, and then 8 to 10 is like a secondary.
There's different considerations.
Your height and weight right now, Muff?
Oh, Jesus, I don't know if I want to put this on the internet. I'm about 6 foot. My last weigh-in was about 230.
230, yeah.
You're stocky, yeah.
So my goal is about 200. I'm trying to get that. Like my goal by March 15th is to be at 200, and then reassess from there.
We're pretty notice close too. It's weight and height wise, and you should look at Mounjaro, tirzepatide.
Muff, you'll notice too, because
I'm getting my blood labs taken. I'm getting my blood labs done finally. So there's a place down here in Tampa called DeFi Medical. So I finally.
That's where I go. They're great.
Yeah, I finally signed up for the consult. I just filled out the patient form. So I'm going to go in and get all that stuff done because I've never gotten.
What do they check for you? What are the blood markers that they look at?
it's pretty comprehensive, right, Jaron? Like it's like 11 of them.
If you look at the doctor, the MD, Justin
11?
Zaya, he's a pretty big researcher in the space. So he's the one that got me on the subcutaneous injections rather than the intramuscular. He did all the research. Him and I think Chrysler was the other doc that started talking about that years ago. So he's always researching and trying to come up with new stuff. So I liked him. They did the telemedicine too. Well.
Yeah, well, lucky for me.
You
like,
said it was just 11 items, almost.
I can't remember off the top of my head now. I wanted to say it was like
11, 13. That's a 15.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. I'm going to go get my other laptop. I'm going to tell you what my items are. I'll be right back.
Yeah,
but I've started taking myself off of like any of the unplugged supplements just because I want to get a baseline. So I was taking like I still have all my blood work. I was taking Alpha T, I was taking DK, I was taking like the GG supplements, and now I've taken all that down just because I don't want to have that to have any effect. I mean, I'm curious to see what it is. What's that?
What's up, Dragos?
What do you guys think about the protein?
I don't use that. Actually. I use whey.
Protein's a supplement. Try to get it from your diet from natural food sources. But if you can't get it, because like especially if you need like 200 to whatever grams of protein, that's a lot. And a lot of times I can't get it. So I have beef protein, like red meat, just powdered beef protein.
That's what
Rich's are you talking about? Rich's? Yeah. See, I use whey just because it's so much easier to mix. Yeah. And it's like I put it in a shake and just crank it out, and then I'm. I mean, I think he said though. He's planning on coming out with a whey product. I don't want to drop any hints on the internet here, but last time I talked to him, he said that's coming. Is that still
we
coming?
Have one. It's already labeled. It's
already on there.
It should be at the fulfillment center in maybe like a week.
Is it on the site?
I don't know if it's been updated yet. I haven't got a notification that it's on the shelf yet, but it should be like any week.
Yeah, I can't do whey, and usually
the lactose
types as well.
Yeah.
I'm lactose intolerant.
As you get leaner, there's more considerations too. So it's different going from 25% body fat to 20, from 20 to 15, from 15 to 10. Like if you want to get like really cut, I get to a point like lactose is out the window. High sodium stuff, that's done now. Any processed foods at all, even like sometimes I'll do a carb load with like whole grain cereal and put some stevia on it. That's out the window if I want to be like 8-9% body fat and be shredded. But at 15%, 12%, I can still kind of get away with it. So the leaner you get, the more strict you have to get with a lot of these things.
I've never been on.
All right, so
it's not on the website, but I see you got the new mag product up there.
Yeah, the magnesium you need for muscle stiffness and muscle mobility, recovery. It's also good for sleep too. I mean, most people are deprived of magnesium in their diet, so it's always good to take 1 or 2 of those a day. I get 61. My last blood labs had 61 line items. I've had as many as 73 pulled on some of these. So he does complete blood count, which has about 8 line items.
Defy checks all your lipids too. So on the prescription, they'll order like 13 things, but when you get your results, there's a lot there. I can look mine up.
Definitely make sure you add because you've got more of an athletic sort of purpose to your blood labs. Make sure you add cystatin C. It's spelled cystatin space C. That's your best indicator of your kidney health, and your kidneys go through a lot of shit when you're strength training. You definitely want to keep an eye on that because most guys that strength train, their kidneys start to fall apart as they get older.
That happened to my dad.
Keep an eye on that with your blood labs. You want to keep an eye on your ferritin too to make sure you've got enough iron. That can be a little bit complex to balance. That's kind of an issue that I have is my blood gets a little too thick. So when I'm doing my IVs, we drain a little bit. But if you drain too much, then your iron level goes too low. But if your iron's too high, your blood gets rusty. So there's all these things that you kind of want to pay attention to. What else?
Rich, can we get a screenshot or something?
No, this is on my laptop, so it's on a different computer, so I can't put it up. I don't even know that I'd want to share like the exact details.
No. In the private group,
it's just weird.
About
I'm happy to do like a private cast with you guys. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Check your DHEA, which is kind of an important hormone. Testosterone free, testosterone total, estradiol.
Well, they're supposed to call me as well too. Console. So when they tell me, I'll ask them on the call which ones they're going to plan to test me with, and I'll run it by you.
I'd also check a bunch of minerals too, like copper, zinc. You might want to check mercury whole blood to see if you have any amount of mercury poisoning. I mean, if you've had mercury fillings, if you're closer to my age, you might have mercury fillings, which might be leaching in your body. If you eat a lot of fish or fish oils, you might have some mercury poisoning, which is problematic. Like can create some pretty significant issues, especially for, your thinking capacity when you get older. Zinc, vitamin D is super important. That's basically a hormone. Super important. You might want to keep an eye on your DHT as well, which is kind of linked to hair loss. Those would be the main ones. But yeah, like dude is very thorough with mine. Like he's all over them every 4 months, and he's fixing anything that's out of line.
What about PEDs?
Well, you guys know that I'm scripted therapeutic testosterone, so I take about 10 IU daily, and I've got HCG, which I do twice a week, just to make sure your balls don't hurt.
Keep the nads going.
When you go into testosterone. Yeah, exactly.
I stopped doing that because it's kind of like male birth control. It's not 100% effective, but your swimmers are low if you're not on the HCG.
Yeah, like your swimmers will definitely go lower, but I know guys that have gotten their wives or girlfriends pregnant while just on testosterone, thinking
roided out bodybuilders get their chicks knocked up all the time.
I can confirm.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't use it as birth control. For some people, it'll tank your sperm count like down to practically nothing. But unless you're monitoring it when you're doing your blood labs, like don't think that you're shooting blanks, right? Chris, it's the same guy that I sent you to. For talking to Amy in the chat.
Yeah, for PEDs, I don't think that's really necessary. Like I did a couple cycles when I was in my early 20s, but at the time I was jacked. I was big because I can hold mass really well. But now that I'm in my mid 30s, I haven't really done anything since my early 20s. When I played ball down here in Mexico, that shit was everywhere at the pharmacies. The coaches just give it to you, but it was under guidance of people that knew what they were doing. But now at my age, I kind of have the same build as I did when I was on that stuff before, but I never go over my physiological or my genetic limit. And that's all monitored by Defy Medical. And they're very thorough about that. I think once you dial everything in right, a lot of guys are surprised that you can get a lot more with less. If I do the minimal viable dose methodology.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of the things that was really interesting. Like I like this guy, Dr. Anthony Jett. I don't know if you saw the podcast that I did with him a couple of days ago. It's on the Entrepreneurs in Cars channel. Guy's brilliant. And, we were talking about testosterone levels, and he was saying, basically levels back in the day, before we had endocrine, disruptors, preserved bullshit, GMO foods and all this sort of stuff, like all these environmental estrogens. And we weren't sitting in front of computers all day. Like we were moving around a lot more, obviously. Testosterone levels were like 1,500, right? Today, like the average is 400 or 500 sort of thing. So it's like,
it seems like your body,
and they call it in range, but I mean, it seems like your body can handle much higher levels of testosterone and is probably going to be more optimized, for you personally. I mean, you may not live to 100, you might only live, 75 or 80 or something like that. But personally, like I'd rather live to 80 fully optimized than live to 100 as a weakling, right?
Oh yeah.
So the actual most effective dose with testosterone, if you're going to apply it exogenously, meaning you're doing the injections, seems to be around like 250 to 300. You'll get the most benefit, like the biggest bang for the buck. After that, it's like you can go to 800, but it doesn't double or triple your results. They get marginally better, but I think the health
and you bloat more, you get fatter, and you estrogenize more. Like there's diminishing returns once you go over, because I found that threshold too, about like 1,200 or so, 1,150 or so. That's kind of my nice spot. If I start creeping up towards like 1,500, I'll start getting bloaty, like the nips start itching. You'll start tearing up at sad parts of movies. You're like, all right, I need to scale off on the T a little bit.
Yeah, I usually keep mine around 1,200.
Yeah, I used to do, like, the most that I ever did was a gram of tea per week, and
500 milligrams is a good dose. Like you'll get big. A gram's insane.
I was pushing 500 kilos, 550 on the leg press, half a ton. I don't have any back issues.
That'll fuck up your knees at some point. Ask me how I know.
Yeah, your joints will go before you.
But what I wanted to say is that over 500, the side effects are just grow exponentially, and unless
they're not worth it.
You start doing like primobolan and trembolone and stuff like that to take away some of the side effects, it's just not worth it. Like it's something so risky. You could have a heart attack just from the amount of things like substances in you and how much you destabilize everything. Not to mention that you're going to go bald.
I think a lot of guys.
bodybuilding-
Well, not
to
everybody goes bald. Like you'll go bald if you
Yeah.
have a predisposition to going bald. It's not always
Yeah.
everybody that's
Okay.
going to go bald.
Yeah,
Let me
if I
just
do
quickly
certain
check here because there's some study here. Go ahead.
Yeah, when I've done certain orals, I've started getting receding hairline. But once I'm off, like 2 or 3 months later, it starts to come back because I don't really have that genetic predisposition in my family. I was going to mention too, body dysmorphia. I think is a big thing in the space. Like when I was in Texas, I did like the mass monster type thing. So I was like probably moth size, like I think 236, but like I wasn't fat. I was just big, just a big old boy. They called me the bovine down there. And I'd compare myself to other guys in the gym. I'd go in the gym. I'd be like, oh, I'm small compared to this guy. But then you realize when you walk out into normal society, like that is really big. Like my size now, I'm probably 195, 200 at just shy of 6, 5'11 and a half or so. And when I go to my gym, I'm the biggest guy in there. Well, I live in Mexico, but when I go out, I'm bigger than anyone in the street. In my head, I feel like I'm small, especially when I go down to like 185. I'll shrivel up and I'll get really, really marked up. And I'll feel like I'm a weakling, and your lifts go down a little bit too. But a lot of
The
people,
truth of
when
the
they
matter
see,
is, though, is
when
that
they see
women
you-
don't really like massive
No.
dudes. Like they think that they're kind of gross, right?
That's
So
what I was
I mean,
getting
if
at.
you're doing it, yeah.
And when you get leaner, a lot of people think you're bigger. Like, dude, you got so big. I'm like, I'm actually 30 pounds down. But the definition gives that apparition.
And the
And it's
ratio.
easier on your organs, easier on your liver, your kidneys, your heart. Like you don't get at 230 when I was the bovine putting up serious numbers. I would get gassed going up the stairs. But when I'm 185 and I'm riding the pink their beach bike in San Diego every day, I feel good all the time. You just feel lighter on your feet, and there's a certain air about you.
Actually, this is on More Plates, More Dates site, and so
He's got
this
good
is
stuff.
probably he's got really good stuff.
Nice pop-up there.
Pop-ups,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Freaking pop-ups.
I need to redo my site, turn it more into marketplace.
Yeah, you got to pop up some more, man.
Yeah.
So here in the study, I mean, this is kind of like, why does this freaking thing?
Scroll's
I hate these
terrible, dude.
I know, dude. Come on.
That site sucks. Derek,
Here we
figure
go.
it
Let's
out.
do that. A little bit better. But yeah, this is a bit of a summary in image form, but at 25 milligrams a week, it really has almost no effect. Most therapeutic dosages are around 100, 125 per week, which will get you kind of around here. Like you'll gain 2.5 to 4 pounds of like lean muscle mass. But like the sweet spot without any effect on your organs and your health is probably up to 200 to 300 milligrams a week, right? You can go up to 600, which is double the dose, but you don't get double the results. And after that, it sort of titrates off a little bit. Like it's not as much of a, visible difference. So guys that, they're out there like, oh, I'm going to go on TRT plus, and they're doing like 1,000 milligrams a week. Like you're going to fuck your body up at some point.
There's no bodybuilders that live past their 40s, man. I mean, there's a couple of them out there, but you're talking about
very few of them.
Very, very few.
Yeah.
I mean,
Destroys your insides.
You look at guys like Ronnie Coleman who can't even walk. I mean, the only guy that I can think of there's a couple guys that I can think of that have sort of surpassed that. But I mean,
I think Dorian Yates backed off early enough, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if I would consider Dorian Yates like. It wasn't until after Dorian
Yates isn't that old. He's only about 50, 53, I think, right? Like he's not that old.
It wasn't until I think right after Dorian, or right when the tail end of when he was competing, is when we started seeing like the muscle monster, like the Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman area. And like Jay actually looks and moves very well, I think, for his age and his level of use or whatever it was. But like you look at him and compared to Ronnie, and like Ronnie Coleman's fucked, dude. I mean, it's a miracle that dude can even walk.
He fucked up his body, but it's mostly from doing power lifts, right? Like that's why I've always been cautious about lifting too much weight.
And a lot of those physiques
he really
don't even
popularized that. He was always
those
Dorian's
physiques don't even look that
good. Yeah, Dorian's a little older. He's previous generation.
Yeah,
like on a therapeutic TRT dose, Rich always talks about the golden ratio. There's actually calculators online you can do for that. So if you do a DEXA scan or body measurements, try to go for that golden ratio. You can do things like build out your shoulders, build out your upper back, bring your waist in, and that does a lot for you. But ideally, you want to go for like a golden era, like a 1960s, maybe early 70s classic bodybuilding look. These mass monsters now, guys like, oh, I want to look like that guy. That doesn't look good. Nobody thinks that looks good. It's actually kind of gross.
Yeah, I think the thing for me is like go ahead, Joe.
I used to get confused for a bouncer.
You did. I could see
that. Yeah. You got the whole get up, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that mafiosa look without being mafiosa.
I saw you on that. I saw you on a little documentary recently. So
yeah,
I know that guy.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
that was funny
Send me that link.
because
Yeah,
it was
get a
about
little,
the
you get a little
MMA
screen
fight.
time. Yeah.
5 seconds of screen time.
There you
Is
go.
that all it lasted? No, like the time
The
in the
fight
ring though.
or
Like
the
how much time
punch?
were you in the ring for? Yeah, for the fight
I
part.
think it was under a minute, but like my feet left the ground when I got punched.
Right.
Hey, you got in there, man. You were
Got some
one of
airtime.
you were
looking
33.
like a
You were in
man.
the 33% of dudes that got in there. So hats off to you.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
guy that I got into the cage with is I think he's 50. He's 50 kilos over me.
Mhm.
And
Jesus.
after the fight,
Yeah.
like I went to talk to him, and he told me like, if you were any further away from me, I couldn't see you because his eyes are busted up.
Stay
So
away,
it's like,
man.
if
Yeah.
you're further away than my reach, then I can't see you.
Took a shot though. Took a shot.
Yep.
So
Just
stay
stay
in
in
his
his
blind
periphery.
spots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. Guys, I got to start to wrap up because I got to meet my trainer a little bit. It's been a slice. I don't know. Guys, I need a topic for Monday's Unplugged Alpha show. So leave me a comment below after the show and let me know what you'd like to hear me do a show on. So let me sort of run it by you this way. So I was thinking about introducing the opportunity for guys to call in and answer a or B question. So I posed this poll the other day because for the most part, guys in the dating marketplace, especially if they're over 25, 30, they really have two choices, right? Choice A is, like a single mom. And it could be a single mom, that was married for a while and just has, a bunch of kids in tow and very low notch count because she was married, the entire time. Or it's, option B is usually a chick that's just dated around and has a fairly large notch count. And I don't know if you guys saw the poll, but I basically said, look, if you have the option of gal 1 that's got a notch count of 2, but has 3 kids from a prior marriage and was married for a long time, or option 2, a gal that's been single for, from 20 to 35 sort of thing, but doesn't have any kids, but she's, been with 50, 100 guys, which one would you pick? And the vast majority of guys pick the single mom, which is pretty surprising because I almost explicitly state like that's not a good idea to get into an LTR on.
Build a roster. Yep.
Build a roster. Option
They can
C.
both come on board.
I learned that from girls. That's what they do. I'm like, oh, it's a good idea. I should do that too.
Yeah, I always find it's funny when women try to hit you with, oh, well, if guys are doing it, then why can't we do it too? It's like, yo, babe, like we learned this technique from you, okay? Like, what do you think we got?
I learned all my game
orchestrated
from girls.
Yeah.
Regarding that, one thing I found out is that when women see you doing this, or like not exactly see you in the act of choosing somebody else if they don't comply, right? In the sense that you're monkey branching, as I think it's called, or what? Building a roster.
Like male monkey branching.
Most of them will build this incredible sense of indignation, and they will fabricate indignation like, oh, that's so disgusting. Like, okay, why is it so disgusting?
Yeah, they try to be disgusted by it. But the truth of the matter is, it's just shaming.
All shaming.
We also operate from the mindset in this space that the ideal is a two-way monogamous relationship, which I understand that's what most guys want. So I've seen in comments before on previous videos and guys like, oh, one girl, one guy, or you can't be using these girls. Like, not all girls want to settle down and get married. Not all guys want to settle down and get married. So if you you need to define what you're looking for first. Once you do that, then you can attract those types of girls. And that might change. If your single mom's coming over to bang you, that's not a problem. But if you want to marry her, it might be a problem.
I put the same poll on Twitter and it got 20,000 votes, and the results were almost identical. About 60% said divorced single mom, 30-something% said single, no kids, but with 100 notches. So that's the poll there. So if you guys think that would be a good show to have like people just call in, in rapid fire sequence and sort of answer this and provide answers why, I think that might make for an interesting show. You guys let me know.
I think a lot of guys are painfully unaware as to how high notch counts most women are. All chicks out there have high notch. They all have high notch counts. I mean,
like a chick who's 20 already has 25
single. The more notches they got.
100 is a walk in the fucking park for a lot of women.
Most girls my age, like they're in multiple hundreds. At least girls that have been honest about it. And if you do the math, that's not a lot. Let's say you've been banging for 20 years and you bang 10 people, 10 new guys or 10 new girls a year. That adds up pretty quick. I know from my notch count, guys like, oh, it's crazy. I'm like, well, that's like a new chick a month for 25 years. That's going to get up there pretty quick. Getting a new chick a week is not tough if you live in a major city.
Got to stop you. Got to run. Got to hit
Yep.
the
All
workout.
right.
I'll see you
Be
guys very
safe.
soon. Have a
We'll do it
slice.
Monday.
Have an awesome
Cheers.
weekend. See you guys
See you
later.
guys.
Peace out.